Is it sustainable or is it just event management? Is it just a greenwash? We'll have to wait and watch.
Every 12 years, the Maha Kumbh Mela turns Prayagraj into the spiritual epicenter of India, where millions flock to the hallowed confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati rivers. From the 14th to the 26th of January this year, this grand celebration of faith and unity has been bringing together humanity in a spectacle of devotion and mythological resonance. But as chants fill the air and rituals unfold, an unsettling reality looms. Can River Ganga, already gasping under the weight of pollution, endure the strains of this monumental event? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. It is believed that people take a dip in the Ganga to wash away their sins. And while River Ganga has been generous, it has encountered a burden it can no longer bear: pollution. Revered as a lifeline and purifier by millions, the Ganga's sacred waters now carry the scars of neglect. Past Kumbh Melas have seen pollution soar to dangerous levels, threatening both the river's health and public safety. This is more than an environmental crisis. It is a test of our collective will to honor a river that has sustained life and faith for centuries. Will the Ganga emerge from the Maha Kumbh revitalized, or will it bear the burden of human excess once more? Past Kumbh Melas have seen alarming spikes in biological oxygen demand, or BOD levels, which measure organic pollution. In 2013, these levels reached as high as 250 mg per litre, nearly 50 times the safe limit for bathing. This raises not just environmental concerns but public health risks as well. To counteract these challenges, the National Green Tribunal has laid down strict guidelines. Uttar Pradesh government has pledged to ensure that no untreated sewage flows into the Ganga during the festival. But can these measures hold up against the sheer scale of the event? The 2013 Kumbh Mela serves as a cautionary tale. Inadequate waste management systems led to significant ecological damage, with mass bathing and littering pushing the river to its limits. The lessons? Without robust environmental safeguards, the Ganga's sacredness could become its undoing. For the millions who gather here, the Ganga is more than a river. It's a lifeline, a purifier, a symbol of divine blessings. According to mythology, this is where drops of nectar fell during the churning of the ocean, a celestial event immortalized through the Kumbh Mela. But as the festival bridges the ancient with the modern, it's time to ask, is this reverence enough to protect the river? With 450 million pilgrims going for the Maha Kumbh, what does it mean for the health of the river itself? The flora, fauna, ecology, how does it impact environment? To discuss all this and more, I'm being joined by leading environmentalist from India, Vimlendu Jha. Vimlendu, thank you so much for joining us here to discuss what is going to be a major problem when it comes to how India and many countries actually look at river systems and protection of river systems. I know that you've been working with Yamuna and protection of rivers for years. Let's begin with the impact of the Maha Kumbh on the Ganga. What's your assessment?
So Geeta, indeed it's a cultural event, and the fact that almost 450 million people are going to actually be taking a holy dip. Indeed, it's miraculous to actually create a temporary city and have such a gathering on earth. But the fact that, the river Ganga, which is already very, very polluted, and indeed right now, the reason why we don't see a black Ganga or a polluted Ganga is because of extra water that's actually been released from Tehri Dam and other hydel projects. Any kind of human activity of this scale will have an adverse impact on the river's ecology. When we are talking about 45 crore, which is 450 million people, we're talking about fecal coliform, which is the excreta there, the municipal waste in terms of plastic that is going to be generated although it's supposed to be a single-use plastic-free event. But a lot of these things are, I would say, a greenwash. In reality, on ground, there is going to be a huge impact, because if you look at the study that was done post 2019 Kumbh, and what NGT also talked about is that it was a public ecology disaster and a public health disaster, almost a situation of an epidemic in that sense. So very, very alarming indeed. It has a great cultural and religious significance and looks grand, but we need to look at the sensitivity and the vulnerability of our river system, a river that is anyway so polluted. So if you look at the November data of Central Pollution Control Board and the other measurements, the fecal coliform levels were 10 times higher already of the river. The BOD level, which is the dissolved biological oxygen demand level, that was almost 3 times the permissible limits. So already a polluted river, further getting polluted. On paper, in theory, there are measures taken, but we will have to see the impact, the long-term and the short-term impact of Maha Kumbh on the river system, and especially on Ganga.
Right, like you very rightly pointed out, it's a spectacle to see so many people come together. The colors, and not just the faith, the rituals, the festivities revolving around Maha Kumbh, beautiful. But in terms of the organizers, Vimlendu, for somebody who's been studying and looking at this very area, how do you see the organizers deal with the organizing of this event? In terms of managing people, might be great, but in terms of managing environment, have they done their bit? And what should they have done? What should they do?
So indeed, as in on paper, this is like a corporate Kumbh. There's a big corporate house. There's a consulting group called Ernst and Young that's actually been helping the organizing of this Kumbh. So it all, they have theoretically said that they're actually going to manage all the sewage that is coming out of the Maha Kumbh. Of course, the construction that has happened. They're calling it temporary construction on the floodplains in that sense. But given the background of these events that we've actually seen several decades, there's very little on the ground. Indeed, wish and hope that they're able to really do everything when it comes to waste management, which means plastic-free and efficient segregation of garbage. Similarly, when we're looking at water supply, both in terms of drinking water or sewage, and then the bathing activity that is actually happening on the river, which also use primarily, we talk about chemicals and soaps and shampoos and other things. And of 45 crore people, which is almost 2 times of Delhi bathing in a small piece of land, in a few square kilometer, there's twice of Delhi that is actually assembled there. So we will have to see the impact in the long term. Right now, indeed, the main thing that we're looking at is a river which is not just needs to be clean while the Kumbh is on, but the river where we have actually spent more than 40,000 crores, the river should be clean throughout the year for the rest of its citizens and not just for Kumbh Mela devotees. So, if it is something, if the government claims that they're actually making a great environmentally neutral, carbon neutral Kumbh Mela, I would really hope that the government replicates this model in its urban planning and municipal waste management and sewage treatment in all its cities. Because if they claim that they're able to do it at Kumbh, they should be doing the same in Delhi and in Lucknow and in Varanasi, because these are the places which are actually polluted. Ganga is polluted, Yamuna is polluted, and we've spent thousands and thousands of crores, billions of dollars actually cleaning the river. So we will have to wait and watch. No doubt this event has a significance. Nobody is asking this event not to happen. But when a river is already so battered, we will have to really deal with it with caution. It's not the river which is 100 years ago, which was pristine and clean. We talk about Ganga with high level of coliform, less water, dissolved oxygen levels are very, very low. The coliform levels are high. There's a concoction of heavy metals and chemicals. There are a lot of drains that we're actually talking about from Allahabad and other places that actually enters the river. So temporarily, they have actually blocked the tanneries coming out of Kanpur, or for that matter, released fresh water. But is it sustainable, or is it just event management? Is it just a greenwash? We'll have to wait and watch.
Well, that's a very interesting point, but you also used a very interesting term, corporate kumbh. In such a scenario, Vimlendu, in your knowledge, or the fact that you're in the environmentalist ecosystem, have these corporates consulted environmentalists? Have they done their bit when it comes to keeping environment in mind for the management of this event?
See, I'm not aware of the consultations, ground level consultations that's actually been conducted. Maybe they have consulted environmentalists and local leaders. I think involvement of local communities in efficient environmental management is extremely important. As I said, this is in active floodplain where Maha Kumbh is actually happening. And based on the reports from 2019, when National Green Tribunal actually called this an epidemic of sorts that would break because of the waste that was accumulating and rotting on the floodplain. So. Not sure whether that consultation happened. Not sure if it's all on paper. Hope so and wish that the corporates and their scientific temperament and their efficient event management leads to an environmentally safe event for the Ganga, because we're not just talking about health of the people, we're also talking about health of the river. And health of the river is not just affecting 45 crore or 450 million people who are actually assembling for Kumbh, but we're talking about more than 500 million people who live on the banks of Ganga and Yamuna together, because Yamuna and Ganga is the same
That's right.
river system that we're talking about. So we will have to wait and watch and learn for future that these events will happen because India is not going to abandon its culture. But given the modern context of our polluted rivers and the danger that it actually has in public ecology and public health, how do we balance culture and ecology? And that's the main challenge for years to come, the decades to come for our country.
So, in such a scenario, Vimlendu, what kind of a repair would the river ecology really require? Because you spoke about health of rivers. When such an event is held at such magnitude, such a scale.
Yeah, in the case of Ganga and Yamuna, the biggest repair that can be done to the river is by ensuring that there is enough flow in the river, which we environmentalists call it as environmental flow, and sometimes it's also known as minimum flow. As I initially said, that the river looks cleaner than the rest of the year is because of extra water that has actually been released from Tehri Dam and other hydel projects. So one of the things that the government will have to do for weeks and months together, and perhaps the nature god during the monsoon will do it for us, is to really flush the pollutants in terms of actually having more and more environmental flow in the river. That's one. Second is that we need to really look at efficient waste management post Kumbh Mela is over. We don't want to repeat what we did in 2019 in terms of looking at safe disposal of garbage, be it biodegradable garbage or non-biodegradable garbage that's actually accumulating on the banks of Ganga right now. We're also looking at construction because, theoretically, of course, there are tents and eco-friendly bamboo construction that has happened, but reality is that there is semi-permanent construction that is actually done to accommodate almost 450 million people. So we'll have to really look at how do we actually bring back and restore the floodplains that would actually be damaged, because at the end of the day, the river's health will depend on the health of its floodplains. Similarly, we will have to look at not just for this Kumbh, but for future and for the impact that perhaps this event would have had on the fish, on the ecosystem, on the people who depend directly on the river. And therefore, some bit of planning post-Kumbh, management of Kumbh is as important as management of Kumbh.
Even before the Kumbh, we've heard of how the river is polluted and it's causing massive damage to the flora and fauna. But post Kumbh, do you anticipate a bigger loss, movement, dolphins leaving many parts of these parts of Ganga and going to other parts, which likely could be cleaner? What do you anticipate in terms of the flora and fauna?
That's exactly what happened in
Especially
2019.
dolphins.
Absolutely. So when we look at the aquatic life of Ganga, and we've actually seen river dolphins in several sections of Ganga, especially in Allahabad and in Bhagalpur and a couple of other places. Very, very rare. But when you look at a human activity, a human gathering, an unprecedented world record gathering of 450 million people, that is going to disturb the natural habitat of the dolphins. Indeed, in the short term, they might just go away. And if we are able to restore, the flora and fauna of the river, if you're able to do some bit of damage control in the long run, perhaps the ecosystem will come back. But the thing is that we can't be battering our ecosystems and wait for the ecosystems to repair itself, because we're already talking about a vulnerable river system. We're not talking about a clean river. We're talking about one of the most polluted rivers of the world, which is Ganga, and also Yamuna. Yamuna being the tributary, as I mentioned earlier,
Yes.
50% of water in Ganga is from Yamuna. So in short term, we might be able to really see these damages. In the long term, these damages, not to have a long-term impact, we will have to make sure that the systems are in place. The ecological balance with the cultural, maintaining the cultural fabric of the country, they will have to ensure that there's minimum flow, there's efficient treatment of sewage that is actually done while the Kumbh is on, and through Namami Gange. As this program, and very, very ambitious program, 40,000 crores have actually gone down the Ganga. And still, if we are not able to restore the pristine significance of the ecosystem of Ganga, it's a huge challenge. It's a great, Ganga is not just a cultural center. It is linked to our economy. There are people who live on the banks of Ganga throughout, as in that's between Ganga and Yamuna, as I said, more than 500-600 million people depend on Ganga directly. So be it agriculture, be it economy, be it culture, be it our health, everything. So right now, when just in November, if Ganga's water quality wasn't even fit for bathing, forget about being fit for drinking, post-Kumbh, I don't know what the situation will be. It might be very, very alarming.
Right. Now, before I let you go, Bimlendu, we spoke at length about what governments should do, what organizers should do, what the management should look like. What about the people? There has to be some amount of responsibility. What's your reading of when you see what's happening to rivers across India now, particularly what's happening in Kumbh? The responsibility and the awareness of the fact that you have to act responsibly. There are things, there should be do's and don'ts that should have been spelled out and should have been followed. So, responsibility of the citizenry, including anybody, foreign nationals who are coming, Indian citizens, but awareness and responsibility of people.
So, Geeta, public problems can't be solved through private intervention. At the end of the day, Ganga can only be cleaned if there's enough water that is released by the government. Ganga can also only be kept clean by having these efficient sewage treatment plants. But at the same time, when we look at Janta, our public, they are also equally responsible, because what we do is that in the name of faith we worship our rivers, and faith also becomes a polluting agent in that sense. So when we look at the artis, our offerings, and our offerings are not non-biodegradable anymore. There, when we talk about our idols or our flowers and everything else, with a river which is already polluted. So I think it's very important that we actually embrace faith. We should in reality worship Ganga and Yamuna, and as a part of our worship and our extension in our faith towards the river, we should actually look at what are we offering to the river. Are we offering something which is actually going to pollute our mother, our goddess Ganga, or it is actually going to restore it? So restrain from polluting the river, being responsible towards the river, which actually they worship, so that they should be able to. We should actually have a Ganga and a Yamuna with us for centuries forward, rather than make it just like a mark on the sheet. And we don't want a black Ganga or a black Yamuna. So the citizenry should avoid plastic bags or offerings, anything which is not degradable into the river. Bathing should be avoided with shampoo and chemicals, because that is actually going to imagine.
Well, I'm imagining a lot of them use it without thinking.
Absolutely. And we think that faith cures. We think that we get blinded by faith, and no doubt, we are a faith-loving country, and people who actually go there, they really worship the river. But worshiping the river should also mean being responsible towards the river. We take a holy dip, and in our taking of holy dip, we should make the river unholy.
That's very, very nicely put, Vimlendu. I'll just give you an example. You spoke about offerings and offering to the river. I cross the DND and I look at Yamuna River every day, and every day people over there stand with their offerings at their temples, at homes, and then those offerings are thrown into the river, but in plastic bags.
Absolutely.
So even if you're saying biodegradable, that flowers are biodegradable, or even the diyas, if they're painted, they're actually toxic. But if they're not painted, nonetheless, it's all in a plastic bag,
When
and
dissolved
it just
oxygen
breaks my
level,
heart.
yeah. So Geeta, when we talk about dissolved oxygen, or when we talk about rivers like Ganges and Yamuna, when you anyway don't have dissolved oxygen in the river and alarming levels of biological oxygen demand, then in that case, even flower decomposition becomes a huge task for the river. So we talk about normal times when offerings of flower and other kinds of diya was okay, but a river which is actually has 10 times more coliform level, has almost 3 times more BOD levels, in that even flower offerings
It's
have to be
toxic.
avoided. And that's the reason why, in Ganga, in Yamuna also, we say that we shouldn't be actually making any offerings. And rightly put, that plastic is a menace, and we think we are actually sending something, our gratitude and our love and our respect and our devotion to the river. But in the process of our devotion, we actually end up taking breath away from our river systems.
Taking the breath away from our river systems. Thank you so much, Vimlenduja, for breaking it down for our viewers. This was important. We'll keep trying to come back to you to understand how this really pans out, unfolds, and whether if this Maha Kumbh could lead to a bigger disaster than the earlier ones. Thank you so much. The Maha Kumbh Mela is a celebration of faith, culture, and unity, but its impact on Ganga is a stark reminder of the fragile balance between tradition and sustainability. Can the river withstand the weight of devotion, or will it be sacrificed at the altar of neglect? One thing is for sure: Ganga will probably survive this Maha Kumbh, but it will surely be left with scars that may or may not heal. Thank you for watching Statecraft.